In 2020, while every airline on Earth was burning cash and grounding fleets, one CEO did the unthinkable. He launched a brand new luxury long-haul carrier from a tiny island of 23 million people. 5 years later, that airline is being compared by passengers, not press releases, to the giants. The CEO is a pilot who started his career fixing planes as a mechanic. His airline shouldn't exist, and yet it just rewrote the playbook the giants thought they owned. We have to go back all the way to the year 1989. A shipping tycoon named Chang decides his cargo empire needs wings. He founded EVA Air, the second carrier on a small Taiwanese market already dominated by state-backed China Airlines. 2 airlines, 23 million people, a duopoly that nobody dared to challenge for 3 decades. Chang was already a legend. He had built Evergreen Group from a single ship in 1968 into one of the largest container shipping companies on the planet. You may know Evergreen as the company behind the Ever Given, the giant container ship that blocked the Suez Canal in 2021. EVA Air was Chang Yongfa's second act. By the early 2000s, EVA had become a respected, mid-tier Asian carrier, North American roots, a modern fleet. The famous Hello Kitty-themed Boeing 777 jets that filled magazine covers and Instagram feeds for years. Then came his youngest son, Chang Kuo-wei, known to everyone as K.W. Chang, born in 1970 to his father's second wife. In a culture where eldest sons run dynasties, KW was not supposed to inherit anything significant. So he did something unusual. He started at the bottom. In 1996, KW joined EVA Air as a maintenance technician, not as an executive, not even as a manager. He fixed planes, then he learned to fly them. He earned commercial type ratings on the Boeing 777, the Airbus A321, the Airbus A330, and later the Airbus A350. He picked up a US FAA aircraft maintenance certificate. He is widely described as the first airline chairman in Taiwan to hold both maintenance licenses and pilot type ratings at the same time. That detail matters because it explains everything that happened later. By 2013, his father appointed him chairman of EVA Air. He was 43 years old. What he did with that job stunned the industry. He flew his own airline's flights as line captain, sometimes even unannounced. Passengers on Boeing 777-300ER services to Los Angeles or Singapore would discover at the gate that the chairman himself was at the controls. He led EVA's North American expansion. He pushed the Hello Kitty branding into a global pop culture moment. EVA's profits climbed. EVA Air finally won its long-pursued Star Alliance membership in 2013 on his watch. But the Chang family was not one family, it was 2. KW was the only child of the second wife. 3 older half-brothers, all from his father's first wife, watched all of this unfold with growing resentment. When his father died in January 2016, those 2 halves of the family went to war. Chang Yongfa passed away at the age of 88. His sealed handwritten will named KW Chang as the sole heir. The estate was later valued at 14 billion new Taiwan dollars. That is roughly $433 million in cash, stocks, and real estate. KW was also named successor of the entire Evergreen Group, which included container shipping, hotels, and EVA Air itself. The will was, to say the least, a bombshell. In Taiwan's family business culture, naming a 4th-born son over 3 older brothers was simply not done. The eldest son, Chang Kuo-hua, did not accept it. Neither did his 2 full brothers. They held the majority of voting shares at Evergreen, and they had a plan. In March 2016, while KW was piloting an EVA Air flight to Singapore, the EVA Air board called an extraordinary meeting. They voted him out as chairman of EVA Air. They dissolved the Evergreen Group chairmanship entirely, and they installed a new chairman named Stephen Lin. By the time KW landed in Singapore, his executive career was over. Local media called it a palace coup. They started calling KW Prince Hamlet, a son betrayed by his own family, a successor stripped of his throne mid-flight, the Shakespearean angle wrote itself, and Taiwanese media ran it for months. KW was 45. He had spent 20 years inside one airline. He had built a skill set no Asian airline chairman had ever combined. Full mechanic certification, captain ratings on multiple aircraft, brand strategy experience, and he had just been fired from the only job he ever wanted. The legal battle over the will would drag through Taiwanese courts for 8 years. The first court ruling favored KW. The Taiwan High Court then dismissed the appeal. The Supreme Court finally dismissed the case in August 2024, confirming the 14 billion new Taiwan dollar inheritance was his alone. But back in 2016, none of that money was accessible. What he had was capital, expertise, and a deep grudge against his former life. Most people in his position would retire, buy a yacht, sit on advisory boards, maybe write a memoir about betrayal. KW did none of that. He decided to build a new airline from scratch on a small island that already had 2 carriers and 0 appetite for a third. The plan looked insane. Most aviation analysts even said it would never fly. On the 2nd of May, 2018, Starlux Airlines was officially registered. The name comes from 2 Chinese characters. Star, chosen for KW's father, who once navigated his shipping fleet by reading the night sky. Universe, chosen for KW himself. The slogan landed in 2019, born with luxury, shining like stars. KW did 3 things differently from any new airline of the past 2 decades. First, he ignored the low-cost playbook. Every other Asian startup of the past 20 years had chased budget travelers. Tiger Air, Scoot, AirAsia X, Vanilla Air. KW went the opposite direction. He decided Starlux would offer 4 cabin classes, including first class, on every wide-body jet, even on routes where competitors only offered 3. The first class cabin would feature just 4 private suites with sliding doors, 83-inch seat pitch, and personal wardrobes. Business class would be 26 lie-flat suites with privacy doors. Premium economy and economy would round out the 4-class layout. Second, he made the largest single Airbus order in Taiwanese history. In March 2019, he signed for 17 Airbus A350 XWB aircraft. He then later added 8 Airbus A330neos and a fleet of Airbus A321neos for short haul. He hired BMW Design Works, the same studio behind Rolls-Royce Interiors, to design the Starlux cabin. The result was called Glisten. He brought in smooth jazz guitarist Peter White to compose original in-flight music. He commissioned a custom cabin scent from Taiwan-based fragrance brand P7 with notes of wood, leather, and florals. He hired local designer Sean Yin to create the crew uniforms. Third, he piloted the first plane himself. The inaugural flight, JX203, on the 23rd of January 2020, from Taipei to Macau, was flown by Captain K.W. Chang. He also has personally piloted every delivery flight for Starlux since, including the airline's first Airbus A350-1000 from Toulouse, France to Taipei in January 2026, a 13-hour ferry across half the planet. The market response was immediate. Tickets opened on December 16, 2019. The first 3 Starlux routes to Macau, to Penang in Malaysia, and Da Nang in Vietnam sold out in 11 minutes. 11 minutes for a brand new airline that nobody had flown yet. And then the world came to a standstill. The COVID pandemic hit Taiwan within weeks of the first flight. In March 2020, Starlux suspended all operations. When services resumed that June, only 3 weekly flights to Macau remained on the schedule. The luxury long-haul plan was paused. Cargo missions kept the lights on. Many analysts wrote the airline off as a casualty of timing. KW did not pause. He kept taking aircraft deliveries. He kept hiring. He kept training crew. He converted spare passenger jets to belly cargo missions that flew critical semiconductor shipments around the world during the supply crisis. While every airline on the planet was retrenching, Starlux quietly added narrow-body capacity, then wide-body capacity. The first Airbus A330neo in February of 2022, and the first Airbus A350-900 arrived in October of that same year. The North American expansion started in April 2023 with a Taipei to Los Angeles route. But did the gamble actually work? Yes, and if I'm being honest, the numbers are stunning. In June 2025, Skytrax certified Starlux as a 5-star airline. Now, before I continue on with the Skytrax certification, I want to say this. A lot of you have made comments on my previous videos about the credibility of Skytrax. Everyone is entitled to have an opinion. However, I have to base my research on numbers and facts that are accessible and not on allegations or what people are saying. So, for my analysis, I try not to be biased on this topic and just give the facts as they are. I just wanted to put it out there, so now I can continue. The announcement was made in Paris at the World Airline Awards. Starlux became the fastest carrier in history to achieve a 5-star rating, doing it in just 5 years from first commercial flight. Only 11 airlines on the planet hold this title. Starlux now sits in that group alongside Singapore Airlines, Qatar Airways, ANA, EVA Air itself, and Cathay Pacific. The same year, Starlux also won the World's Most Improved Airline Award. EVA Air, by comparison, took 27 years to earn 5-star status and got it just months after firing him. China Airlines is currently rated 4-star. The award handed to CEO Glenn Chai in Paris was, in a sense, KW's revenge. Quiet, polished, and signed by the same Skytrax that had been rating his old airline for years. In October 2024, Starlux completed its IPO on the Taiwan Stock Exchange. The offering raised approximately 9.4 billion new Taiwan dollars. That is roughly 293 million US dollars. KW retained around 27.5% of shares. In 2024, Starlux reported revenue of 35.55 billion new Taiwan dollars, up 58% year over year. Trailing 12-month revenue through the third quarter of 2025 reached over 42 billion new Taiwan dollars. That is roughly 1.34 billion US dollars. Net profit margin in fiscal year 2024 reached 3.7%. Modest, but profitable. The fleet has expanded to 28 aircraft as of late, 2025 all-Airbus, with an average age of around 3.2 years. Starlux now operates the youngest wide-body fleet in the world. The plan calls for 43 aircraft by the end of 2026. By 2029, the target is 53 jets, including 5 Airbus A350F freighters for the airline's planned cargo arm. KW himself was named a Knight of the Legion of Honor by the French government in 2021 in recognition of his contributions to aviation and his partnership with Airbus. Codeshare deals with Alaska Airlines started in March 2023. A strategic codeshare with Etihad Airways followed in June of 2025, and American Airlines joined in August 2025. Starlux is also pursuing membership in the One World Alliance, though that bid is currently blocked by Cathay Pacific, whose route network overlaps significantly with Starlux's own. That said, the picture is not entirely clean. Profit margins are thin. Margins dropped to roughly 0.6% on the most recent trailing 12-month basis. The airline carries a debt-to-equity ratio of around 2.3. Aircraft are leased rather than owned. The model has not yet been tested through a full economic cycle without crisis support. So, what comes next? The Phoenix route is the clearest signal of the next phase. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, known as TSMC, is investing 165 billion US dollars in Phoenix, Arizona. 3 new chip plants. Tens of thousands of Taiwanese engineers and executives now need to fly between Hsinchu and Phoenix on a regular basis. Before January 15, 2026, there was no nonstop flight between Arizona and Asia. None. Ever. Sabre market intelligence data showed that Phoenix to Taiwan traffic in 2024 already totaled 67,000 two-way passengers. Taiwan was the second largest Asian market from Phoenix, behind only India. The Taipei to Phoenix route stretches 7,401 miles. It is currently Starlux's longest single sector. Phoenix is now Starlux's anchor in the new TSMC corridor. The next signal is Prague. On the 1st of August 2026, Starlux will launch its first European route, a non-stop service from Taipei to Prague's Václav Havel Airport. 3 weekly flights at launch, scaling to 4 from October. Why Prague, you ask? Czechia has built strong semiconductor industry ties with Taiwan. Prague also sits close to Dresden, Germany's growing chip manufacturing center. Prague Airport projects 95,000 passengers in the first year, plus 3,000 tons of cargo. The semiconductor corridor stretches from Phoenix to Hsinchu to Central Europe. Starlux is positioning itself as the connecting airline of that corridor. A second European route, widely expected to be Milan-Malpensa, is scheduled for late 2026. The geopolitics, however, are real. Starlux is a Taiwanese airline, and the Taiwan Strait is the most watched flashpoint in global politics. Every major military analyst includes Taiwan in scenarios involving conflict with mainland China. If a crisis hits, Starlux loses its hub overnight. There are commercial threats too. Emirates and Singapore Airlines are reportedly studying Starlux's premium model. Cathay Pacific is actively lobbying against Starlux's One World application. EVA Air is rumored to be planning its own Skytrax 5-star push. The Half brothers, it seems, are not done with this story either. If everything goes right, Starlux becomes the premium link between Asia, North America, and Europe inside a decade. Starlux already cracked the global top 5 in the 2026 World's Best Airlines Awards. If anything goes wrong, the entire model collapses. Thin margins, high lease costs, a small home market. One bad year could end everything. KW Chang turns 56 in September 2026. He still flies as a captain on his own airline. He still wears the same badge every Starlux employee wears, the one that says, "Safety is our attitude." He has not given a single interview claiming revenge against his half-brothers. He has not bought back EVA Air, though his fortune is large enough to attempt it. He just keeps flying and building and ordering aircraft. If you found the story as interesting as I did, please hit the like button and subscribe to ExPlaned. It really helps the channel grow, and it tells me which airline stories you want to see next. Now, before I sign off, I want to hear from you. Have you ever flown Starlux Airlines, or do you have any intentions? Curious about your opinions, experiences, and plans, so drop them down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.